Hey, what? Hey, yeah, man. Yeah. I'm gonna have to cut this out. Yeah, well, okay. Hey, welcome back to the What If Universe. Today we got Ronin Charizard. I just want to say real quick, be sure to stay till the end of the podcast because I'll be announcing the next two creators who will be interviewed. So that way you can arrange questions early for those two particular people. But to start things off, Ronin, would you like to introduce your channel and to the audience what you do and describe what it's about?
Yeah, sure. So my name is Ronin Charizard. Most people know me as Ronin. I am a Pokemon What If YouTuber. I didn't start the genre, but I kind of popularized it. And if you head over to my channel, Ronin Charizard, you'll see that I have several different what if scenarios. A lot of popular ones, a lot of ones that some are the ones that, as a kid watching the anime, you really wanted to happen. So that's what I really like to explore, and I have a couple of ones that are topics that may have never been thought about. So go on, head on over, and don't forget to subscribe.
Yeah, one of the most important things to do. So for this interview, I'm gonna ask questions related to what ifs, some about the what if community ish, what ifers. I don't know what we call ourselves at this point because this is literally its own subgenre at this point. It's just becoming into more subgenres for what ifs. I feel like
I would
that
say
is,
storytellers, maybe.
I guess so. But the thing is, like, I don't know. It's hard to describe because there's people who like take things more seriously, and they don't tell stories, but they talk about a scenario. But then there's people kind of like what we do and tell stories, or I kind
I
of like to go
love
off
I
the
love the
wall.
story aspect of it. I love the story aspect of it. I like envision myself as that old dude, like the world's ended and you have a bunch of
Yeah,
kids around you and you're that old dude and they're like, "Tell us about the before times." And you're like, "All right, so listen. There once was this race of monsters and then it started with 151." And then it just goes on from there and you know, that's just your role in the society.
I did want to ask, what did you learn from making your first what if when you started?
So my first what if was what if Ash was born in Unova, and that's still ongoing because when I started planning that series, I had it planned to be a very very long series. I didn't plan for it to cut, like, I kind of want to give it the anime feel of it's never ending, you know. Um, and there's a clear cut in the the quality, you can say, from the very first episode to the last episode that I just released. There's a difference in audio. There's a difference in editing. There's a difference in just sound quality in general, presentation, how you record the lines, everything. All of that stemmed from those first couple of videos, and I spent like 6 months prior to my first video's upload planning, learning, just to try to understand the basics of editing videos and exploring options. Like, oh, you could do it on your phone. Like, oh, but I use my phone for business, so I don't want to do it like that and cram down the space. So I was like, okay, so I guess I'm gonna have to buy a laptop at bare minimum. And then, finding an editing program that could work with you, learning how to record, going through microphones, and I upgraded my microphone like 4 times before I got to the current one that I'm on in a 6 month period, just to make sure I had better quality.
What
And
mic do you use currently?
currently I'm using a Blue Yeti.
All right.
So, and it's been described as a workhorse, so to speak. It's not the most top of the line, but it definitely gives me the type of audio quality that I think could at least be on par with most of the top end content creators. So
I mean, to
it's
be
something.
fair, I use one. A bunch of people in our genre use one. I think there's only like a couple that use like HyperX, or I
Yeah,
think only a few use like really nice stuff. I think Carthu uses like a Shure, like one of those like podcaster microphones that's really
yeah.
expensive.
Yeah, so, and it wasn't necessarily budget that was restricting me. I was just looking for something that had overall good quality that I can use in multiple scenarios. And that this one, when I was reading up on it, it kind of fit what I was looking for. So that's what I went for with it.
Oh yeah, I think it's great. I think it really is versatile if you're starting off or just want something that's relatively powerful as a good
Yeah.
beginner mic.
Yeah, it's actually more powerful than I initially gave it credit for. Because sometimes you get that, it sounds like you have the mic in your mouth if you're not careful. And it's just like, oh, damn, I didn't realize I was that close, or I didn't realize I had the volume turned up that high. That type of deal.
I
So,
think the one thing is that with mics, for everyone who's like shopping around, you have to figure out if your voice fits it. Like, for example, like I'm using one right now, but it might not be for you potentially. That's what
yeah.
it's something it's basically a personal decision because when you test out mics, you hear how you sound and it's like, is it good? Is it not? It's like there's like only a few mics I plan to upgrade to, but I really am probably gonna stick with this for another couple of years here.
Now, you want to know what's funny is my first, like, 4 or 5 videos, I recorded with a lapel mic.
Oh wow.
Yeah. That'll tell you exactly how far I've come. So,
I mean, there's some good lapel mics out there. I won't hit them
yeah.
that hard. There's a
Yeah.
couple people who use them for like if they're outside or doing like more motion
Oh,
related
no.
things, you know.
No. This was me sitting at my kitchen table reading a script written on paper. That's where I started.
Yeah, that reminds me of classic Plus Ultraman. I remember on like a live stream he mentioned that's what he used to do. He record like in his kitchen somewhere. And the
Yeah.
audio was just like hectic if you listen to some of the older videos back in the day.
Yeah, and me and him have talked about that several times in the past, so definitely. Oh man. Brings back memories of horror and joy all at the same time.
Well, yeah, for sure. Did you? So, what made you choose to do what if scenario content in the first place?
Um So, to answer that question, we got to rewind back to 2015, 2016.
All right.
I was, damn, how old was I then? It was 7 years ago, so I was in my late 20s, and I started watching. Well, I was always watching stuff on YouTube. I watched Mystic Umbreon. I watched stuff from the Dragon Ball community, Moscow X, Team 4 Star, Smug Stick, stuff like that. I've always watched people like that. And I realized that there was an oversaturation in the market of Dragon Ball What Ifs. And that's just been a standard. And I think it kind of stems back to Team 4 Star and the Abridged series. Because they just took the show and started telling their own story, trying to piece everything together to make it as cohesive as possible to try and tell as great a story as possible. And then people just started branching off and wanted to do what ifs on that scenario.
I would
And
say more personally as a historian, I think when TFS ended the abridged series or close to it, I really think Masako, when he did What Ifs more full time, that got
yeah,
it more into general populace, and that basically stirred out to people who used to be like general Dragon Ball like content creators or did What Ifs occasionally, now try to go full on doing What If related
yeah,
content.
and that's where I was leading to it, because then it ended and Moscow really started hammering it away. And the first one I ever remember seeing from him was What If Raditz Turned Good, and I still think to this day that that's probably my favorite What If from him, just because it's like the first one that I'd ever really seen. And and then you notice that all these other What Ifs for Dragon Ball start popping up, and then other genres start popping up. But Pokemon was kind of the odd man out. It never really had a following at that point. And we're talking 2016, 2017 maybe.
Yeah, I would agree because back in the early PokeTuber days, I would say like 1 to 2 years back from that point, it basically hit its peak. I feel like there was a lot of people who started channels or got their high points basically, and stuff was starting to get relatively saturated now. What
Yeah.
ifs did exist back then, but they're not how Ronin does them or how people do them today. Because back then, they're more scenario based esque towards like I would say like what Cartoon's Dojo does. So basically, he says a scenario and tries to follow canon as much as possible. And
Yeah.
there's less deviations in the story itself, which to some people like that, but the thing is that also got oversaturated as well, which is fun to think about.
Yeah, that's definitely true. And that whole topic, just the oversaturation of the Dragon Ball market, because I'll use that one as the example because that's the one I remember, is what kind of led.
I would agree. At this point in time, if you get into what ifs, I would not recommend Dragon Ball because you're competing against too many people.
Oh
yeah. At this point,
and that is kind of what happened, because I started thinking of a scenario back then of what if Ash had become champion in Indigo, and it's originally started of, okay, well, I could just take Ash and have him win each league and how each region would play out, and I'll just have the same Ash. But then as I got older, and then it kind of worked into when I actually started considering content, I realized that was kind of like a stupid idea, because then at this point you're just writing fan fiction. And don't get me wrong, like doing a what if is a fan fiction because you're a fan and you're just writing a fictional story, but it was too generic. Like, you could send Ash to each region and have him win each region. It's the same Ash, and it tells kind of a bland story, because by like region 3 in Hoenn, he's just a super powerful trainer and the world knows him, and he's not really a threat anymore, or nobody's really a threat anymore. So it kind of defeats the purpose story based wise. So, but anyway, back to 2016, that's when the idea started. And then fast forward to 2020. So I was a longtime Yu-Gi-Oh player. I used to travel to events as much as I could. I would like to go to events. I competed at nationals a couple of times, stuff like that. And 2020, I live in Las Vegas, and we had a YCS here, which was it was a big event. It was 3v3 tournaments, so on and so forth. I didn't do that well in the tournament because of stuff that happened out before the tournament actually started. But all my friends were here, and we would, that was one of the things. It was like going to play testing. All my spare time was spent doing that. Well, then the pandemic happens, and they shut everything down. Now all of a sudden I can't travel. Now all of a sudden Yu-Gi-Oh's just become an online card game. And I personally hate playing online because I like the interaction of people, meeting new people, playing in person, that's the stuff that I like. And you can go back to, because I'm a boomer and I've been playing since the card game became Americanized in the TCG. But that was just me. So I just kind of stopped doing anything Yu-Gi-Oh! And now I had a bunch of free time on my hands, and I didn't know what to do with it. I'm relatively successful in my personal career, my professional life. I have a lot of a freedom, and it awarded me a chance to do something new. And then I came back to the idea of YouTube, and we had a Yu-Gi-Oh! Channel, kind of like a team thing, but I was really the only one that ever upkeeped it, and I didn't want to have to try and promote that channel as my own channel now, because it only had like 100 subscribers. It wasn't something that we went out of our way to promote to try and get to grow. So I was like, you know what? Why don't I just try to start over? And at first, I was considering doing Yu-Gi-Oh! Content. Kinda, if you know who Simo is, or Team Samurai X1, I was kind of considering doing stuff considered close to them. But then it comes back to the oversaturation of the market. And I was looking at him like, that kind of content is just, it's being done. Those people have carved out the niche. They own the biggest slice of the pie. And then it came to, okay, so what can I do? And then the idea of, well, I had this great idea for, Ash and Pokemon What Ifs. So then I started searching, and I found Enter the Unknown. And I was like, okay, this guy's telling a pretty good story, but it's just him walking through the anime, and it's just changing the scenario, but it's not really a story. And that's kind of what the Ash's Win series has been, is walking through the anime, changing things here and there. But the story grows as you get deeper into it, from my perspective. So I thought, okay, let's search other Pokemon What Ifs. And the only things that I was getting was the one-shots from Mystic Umbreon that I'd already seen, the very old ones from Proto Mario that were based on the games, like What If Red
Yeah.
joined Team Rocket, stuff like that. That's all I was getting. And I was like, this market right here, this is the non-oversaturated market that I would want to get into. This is what I would want to be part of, because I don't want to be part of the small guy trying to fight the bigger guys, because at that point you're just doing nothing but fighting for your spot in the greater picture. I want to be the guy who creates the spot, so that way I'm part of the ground floor. That's what I wanted. That's the only way I figured that if I had a chance to make it on this platform, that I would be able to make it on this platform. So that's when I started going into the whole, all right, I need to, if I want to do this, I need to figure out what I need to do it. I need some sort of way to edit videos. I need some sort of way to record audio. I need to find an editing program. I need to know how to make thumbnails, and all this stuff. And you can tell my very early videos, it was like what I had just learned. For the first like 6 or 7 months, I didn't even know the proper dimensions on a YouTube thumbnail until somebody pointed it out to me. It might have been Plus Ultraman or something, but I was like, oh wow, I should probably, start making up the proper dimensions. Stuff like that. And so it was a good like 8 months of just trying to figure things out. And I remember going through the process in 2020, and I finally get a laptop and I get it turned on, and then I'm going through editing software, and I have no background in editing, so I need something simple, something that I can figure out fast. And then I find one, and then I need to record audio, and I finally find one. And then I need to figure out how to build the video, and building the video and figuring things out. And that was like, I remember each step clearly, because it was a small success. And I was like, oh, that's how you do it. Awesome. And that's how I ended up getting into, the first video that I had made, which was the What If Ash Was Born in Unova. And it was a very long and lengthy process, and it was only came about because I couldn't do Yu-Gi-Oh anymore. I couldn't go play test with my friends. I couldn't go out and go to other states and go to regionals and compete in YCSs and go to nationals and stuff like that, because it was effectively shut down. So that's how it happened.
Yeah, I would say what's interesting for me, I quit Yu-Gi-Oh slightly before, because when Link format came out, it was just really too much for me to handle at that point to try and keep up anymore. So I kind of just gave up. It was like, I'm done. Like, I was mostly playing gimmick decks at that point. They just didn't work with all the floodgates being legal at the time. Still
Yeah.
too many are for me to ever really take it competitively again.
Yeah, I really like it from the standpoint though, because you grow up, you grow older, and this goes back to how old I am. But your friends get older too. They move away, they move to other states and stuff like that. So it gives you a chance to see people that you kind of grew up with that you haven't seen in a while. And that was the big thing with me, is it gave me a chance to go see these people. Or like, they're like, oh yeah, we're going to go to this event because it's only a 2-hour drive from where we live. Well, what a coincidence. It's only a 2-hour drive from where I live, but we just so happen to live in different states. So it gave you a chance to meet up with them and just spend a weekend. That was the main thing with me. But it also gave you the chance to do something constructive with your time, And that's what it was. And it goes back to my childhood and me having to find other outlets besides ones that were of questionable legality. And that's where Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh, Dragon Ball all came in, because it kept my attention away from those bad influences.
Yeah, it's always a good thing
Yeah.
to switch up what you're doing.
Yeah. So, oh man, it's a nice walk down memory lane.
Do you have advice for people who want to start making what if content based off what you learned recently?
So, the one thing I would have to say is you need to do your homework, and you need to know the basics on how to make a video. It doesn't even have to be good, but you need to know the basics. But you need to make the video. If you don't take the first step and you don't start doing it, then you're never going to know if you're able to do it. That was the biggest thing for me, is I had no idea what I was doing. but I also had like this whole gigantic fear of failure in the back of my mind. Like, I don't know what the hell I'm doing. I have no idea how to record audio. I have no idea how to deliver lines. Who the hell's going to watch my content? But if I wouldn't have taken that first step and just said, you know what, screw it, I'm going to do it, then I wouldn't have been here doing an interview with you. And you've been in the community much longer than I have, just in YouTube in general. So.
Oh yeah, I think there is a lot of big steps you have to do when you first start doing content. But the main thing is that if you're willing to accept that you're going to fail when you initially start, then I think after that you'll be fine for most people.
And I would say, what ifs in particular, write something that makes you happy, not something that makes everybody else happy.
Oh yeah, because so many people just do the same thing these days for Dragon Ball What Ifs. It's like, if I'm gonna watch one, I'll probably pick a creator I actually know first.
Yeah.
Typically. And that's just creator bias, though, because I know so many people at this point that I know if they're gonna deliver, basically.
Yeah, and you can kind of tell, like, you even with creators that you know are passionate about what they're creating, you can tell when it's a project that they're happy with and a project that they're not happy with, because projects they are happy with, they take their time and they'll give you that little extra detail in the wording and everything. The other ones that they're not happy with, they may speed run it. And, you know, let's just get through this scenario. So
yeah, I think sometimes, though, you might want to speed run through things, especially if there's a lot of stuff that's the same as in canon, like in the beginning. Typically, this happens with Dragon Ball What Ifs, if people want to jump to Z as fast as possible, which is unfortunate sometimes.
Well, Z is where all the quote-unquote action is, and that's where most people know from, because, I mean, even I didn't grow up with the regular Dragon Ball. I grew up with Z first, so I can understand that.
I get that. I think the one thing that I think that people lack is the ability to, like, deliver on comedy, because that was one big thing that original Dragon Ball has. And you can't really fit the tone unless you know how to write something, you know?
Yeah, that is 100% true. You have to, I mean, don't get me wrong, the original Dragon Ball had its serious moments, like, you know, when King Piccolo came back, and then that's where the tone of it started to shift. But very early on, it was very much of a fun adventure. You know, it wasn't even though you had like the Red Ribbon Army and there was kind of tension, it was very meant to be just a fun journey. That's all it really was. And that is where it loses most Dragon Ball fans, I think, because nowadays it's kind of just, okay, who's the next big bad? What's their power? How do you justify the power? And how does Goku beat him? That's really what
it feels like sometimes.
Yeah, you know. That's what it comes down to, unfortunately, but it is what it is. There's not really much even more you can do about that. So,
I think the other thing is people, I guess, don't know how to write around certain action points, because especially, like, you know, like the classic what if character had blink power. That's literally just the most repetitive.
The cookie cutter. The cookie cutter. What if? Yeah.
Well, it literally is the easiest what if you could ever do. You just give a character different power and just follow the main story. Like, if you ever want to start doing what ifs, I would recommend that, because you don't have that many ways you could fail, in my opinion.
That's the one thing I like about Pokemon what ifs, is you can't really follow that aspect.
Oh yeah, because if you change something decently significant, it changes a lot.
Prime example is my What If Ash Was Born series, both Kalos and Unova. So he's born in both regions. It's going to be a completely different experience each way. So that's one thing that I do enjoy about those, is because it's always going to be completely different no matter what you do. So, oh man, memory lane.
For sure.
All right, what else we got on the docket?
I did want to ask what inspired you to make what ifs? Like, do you have any inspirations you can bring up?
Masako X was a big one. We already talked about him. So my main thing is like, I'm at a crossroads in my actual personal professional life.
Oh,
I've
okay.
been working in the restaurant industry now for about 17 years.
I see.
And don't get me wrong, I like what I do, but there's no more challenge. I've been very successful. I've held multiple. I'm a restaurant general manager. I've held multiple
Yeah,
restaurant general
you're
managers
basically
titles.
hitting a peak at that
Yeah,
point.
like I've held multiple restaurant general manager of the years titles across multiple companies. I've hit the top of the mountain, and it's gotten to the point to now I'm bored, and I want something new. I want something exciting, and this is like a complete 180 because I've done business and basically business, finance, customer relations for the past 17 years. Now it's about creating something. This is something entirely new because before it's just like here's the process. We've developed the process. You follow the process, execute the process. Now it's I have to develop the process, I have to execute the process, and meanwhile I have to also build people and create interest in the process. And that's where I find the challenge. And people make full-time livings off of YouTube and just being content creators. Like Mystic Umbreon, I've talked to him on a personal level, and I know that's all he does. That's all he's done for the last 10 years. And he's been very successful in it. I would imagine Masako X has the same level because their subscriber base is very similar. They're both over the 500,000 mark.
There's also merch sales and other
Yeah,
things that
yeah, but
other
that's
people don't consider.
yeah, I completely understand that. And that's stuff that I haven't gotten into yet. But they've built this brand that is themselves off of
Oh, yeah, I don't disagree with that. I'm just
yeah, and
saying, like,
that's
to the audience, there's other sources of income
yeah.
besides like AdSense that people think that's all I
Yeah.
get.
And my whole thing is like, in order to do the merch sales, you got to first build something that people would want to watch. So,
Like, you need an icon that you can sell, essentially.
yeah, like a prime example is Sylph Spectre. I watch a lot of his Nuzlocks, and he's got a merch store, and he's got one shirt that says Nuzlocker. He's got his True Power tournament series that I hope he brings back soon for Sinnoh, because I've been waiting on that one. But he's got a True Power shirt for that. But he had to create that brand first before he could start selling the merch. And he's gotten really large. He's I think he's at 200K or close to 200K, something like that. But I've been watching him since he was at like 60K, and to watch his growth happen and him be able to do that type of thing, it's like that's the challenge to me. Like, can I do that? And that's where I find the most interest in it.
Yeah, so you're thinking of considering changing career paths to potentially going full time, I assume.
That's the thought. But the problem is I also have a wife. I have 2 kids, so I have to. It's not something that I could jump ship. I can't just be
no,
like.
I
Yeah.
100% agree with that. When you have certain dedications like that, like you have to commit to what works, because this platform, in all seriousness, there's so many apocalypses I've gone through. Like, I've probably gone through all of them actually, because of when they started. So it's just crazy even think about that when I started content creation, because I was there for each one, and I could tell somebody like how they started, like whose fault it was. It's like what happened.
Yeah, and that's the thing, and I fully recognize that as like an obstacle. So in order to mitigate that obstacle, it's essentially you got to have revenue streams from several different sources. So you get ad revenue, Patreon, merch sales.
Patreon is super important for anybody who starts doing content.
Yeah, sponsorship, stuff like that. Like those, I recognize that all those feed into like that overarching goal of being a full content creator. And the problem is you have to build the brand first before you can capitalize on a lot of those other ones. So like getting a sponsorship, for instance, nobody's going to want to sponsor somebody who's got 500 subscribers. They're going to be looking at people who 10, 20, 30, 40, 500,000, whatever. Those are the people they're going to be looking at because those are going to get to the widest audience. So you got to build that audience. Merch sales. Your merch sales are going to suffer unless you have a dedicated fan base that are interested in what you have to put out. So you have to build the fan base. Patreon is another thing. I have a small dedicated Patreon and I shout them out in each video and stuff like that. But that is also another part of the fan base. You have to get those people who really love what you do to want to donate that extra, because that's what it's about. So, and it's about building the relationship with those people, and it's about building that fan base for people who go, you know what, I do want to support this guy because I want to see more from this guy. I never want him to go away, and that's essentially what it is. So it's just a never ending push forward, and you just got to keep going and keep going and keep going. And unfortunately, people get tired of the grind. And if you want to build a career on I wouldn't say the YouTube platform, I would say the creator platform, you have to be willing to push forward no matter what happens. So.
I do want to give a personal recommendation to people to not use TikTok, and here's my reasoning why. For people wondering, TikTok basically pulls money from everybody. So everybody's basically getting what's known from a creator fund. The problem with that is more people who join the platform, the less money each person gets. That's how the system works. And that's why I'm literally kind of giving up with that platform. It's not just for monetary reasons, but how scummy they treat their creators. It's that bad.
I don't even know how to use TikTok, so you don't got to worry about that.
Yeah. I know some people my audience are a lot younger and they're trying to take off with it. It's there's reasons why I don't use it. That's why. If they paid their content creators fairly, I would use it, but they don't.
I would say
Twitch,
too,
it's more viable than TikTok.
I would say too, YouTube's don't get me wrong, I'm not saying TikTok's not a bigger platform or not a big platform, but I would say YouTube has more of a what's the word? It's got a track record. It's been around longer. It's been consistent for the most part. So
also
it can be
trusted. The backers, you can see them a lot more clearly with Google, who's actually supporting versus a Facebook or TikTok. Twitch is obvious. They're backed by Amazon. They'll probably last a couple more years as long as they don't screw their content creators, which they almost did by changing their percentage that they got money wise. That was a horrible idea. I don't know who thought that was gonna work, because people just jumped to YouTube afterwards.
It's usually some guy behind a desk somewhere going, hey, we might be able to cut costs if we just shave this right here, and across the board we'll save this much. And that's usually what it is.
The restaurant industry and understands certain moves you have to make. It's that's what happens.
Yeah. I understand that completely. Trust me, I've worked for some businesses that were all about cutting freaking costs, which force you to cut corners, which it's all around bad.
Yeah. Main thing is to know your worth, especially whether it's for me, people, I believe one person in the community tab, it's who's What If Universe? And the thing is, I understand I'm not as reputable as I used to be as far as well-knownness, but a lot of stuff, Smugstick, I edit a good percentage of his videos now. Anime Sage, that guy's gonna probably be the number one Naruto What If YouTuber soon, because so many people...
He's at 60-something K, right?
He passed plus Ultraman not too long ago in views and subscribers, so...
He's been he's been very consistent so far. He puts out a lot of content. I've never personally watched any of their content before. And you know what? It's honest fact is because I didn't actually know they existed until you started promoting stuff, and I started seeing it. That's why.
Oh yeah. So I recently wanted to promote more stuff that I edit for people because it does affect my content grind, because people notice I don't upload as often. And it's not because I'm not good or don't have time to do it. It's legit that so many people rely on me and dealing with other real life issues. Recently I was told oh, you're being kicked out by the end of the year around this month, basically. So I'm basically trying to sort out things, try to figure out how to get videos edited for my own channel while also maintaining content for other people. Basically.
Yeah, and it's also a business move too. I'm pretty sure you're not, just doing all this stuff pro bono. It's also probably an extra source of income for you. So that's also something to consider as well. It helps fund your lifestyle.
Well, I will say initially I have done stuff pro bono when I was starting off initially.
Yeah.
Like, with Plus Ultraman, Smugstick, and I believe a few other people, my rate was a lot lower. And for people wondering, it's like, oh, why don't you edit for a blank person? A lot of the time it's not because we're not on good terms or whatever. It's usually just because of money at this point, because I've reached a point with my editing, it's obviously value has gone up than it used to be.
Oh yeah, that's understandable. Things go up. You understand your worth. You're editing for somebody with like the size of Smugstick and even Anime Sage. Even though I haven't personally watched her content or anything, but that's understandable. It's an exchange rate. You realize your worth. They realize your worth, and they have a much larger audience than we have. So that's understandable.
I think one thing when people look like example of song like Plus Ultraman, Anime Sage, people it's like, oh, Plus Ultraman gets more views per video. The thing is, Anime Sage posts more videos per week than Plus Ultraman does, so it basically evens out.
I would also say that goes back to the argument of personal life. I know Plus is still in school and stuff like that, so if you're in school and you're paying for an education, if YouTube is a secondary thing, I'm obviously going to focus on what I'm paying for first before anything.
I know for sure he pays artists and other stuff, so stuff does get expensive, obviously. Same thing with like.
So that's completely understandable.
Edit for they also pay artists occasionally.
Yeah, but that's completely understandable, and it comes down to your ability and what you have dedicated to, and stuff like that. So even me, I'm posting almost every week on my channel. But I also have a full-time job. I have a wife, 2 kids, personal life. So there are times where it just gets kind of the point. And keep in mind, I'm a one-man band. I do my recording, my script writing, I do my editing, I do my thumbnails, everything. So,
I will say to an extent what I do would be more on par with what you do, because we're really close in sub count. The only difference is like how active I became versus you at this point.
Yeah, and I would say the only reason my sub count is as high as yours is because I'm more active.
Yeah, so I would agree with that. And if I wanted to be more active, I could. The thing is that, as you probably know, YouTube does not pay equivalently to what you put in sometimes.
Don't even fucking get me started on that. Don't even fucking get me started.
Well, the thing is, it's true though, because people.
I know. I'm fully aware of that. That's why it comes down to.
IRL people, it's like, why don't you just do stuff for yourself? It's because YouTube wouldn't pay me versus like if I edited the same video for somebody else and just
and that's why the first couple of years grind is such a headache, because you're not the amount of time you're putting in, the worth that you feel you're worth is not being reflected in the ad revenue that you're getting paid.
Well, in reality, I would recommend someone to just do their channel kind of like once a week what you're doing, but also just edit on the side for people, because that way you can improve your editing and have someone criticize you.
That's if you have the time, That's the big thing. That's if you have the time.
Yeah. Well, I'm saying if someone wants to take YouTube seriously, that's what I'd say. Because otherwise, you're going to be doing stuff for a while, and if you don't get an audience that quickly, then you don't know like what mistakes you're making as fast, basically.
Yeah, that's why in a lot of my very early videos, I was like, all right, tell me, how'd you feel about this? What'd you feel about the audio? What'd you feel about the editing? Any tips or anything? And I was always very critical of that, because I would get like these negative feedback on the video. Like I remember the very first video I had done with Plus Ultraman was our audio. I recorded my audio, but he did the editing on the video. And we put the first part of GSA up on my channel. That was his idea. That was not my idea. I was like, dude, you take the reins. I'm the passenger. You just direct me, because I have no idea what the hell I'm doing. And I started getting a flood of people from his channel. Some of them wanted to stick around because they liked the concept of what I was doing. But a couple of them were just like, I don't even know why he's working with you, because you're shit. And it's just like, okay, appreciate the comment, but why? Don't just say it.
For me, it was the opposite. It's like, if Plus Ultraman's working with you, he had to see something noteworthy enough to put his time and dedication to do this. because he's not like that type of person.
Yeah,
just collab with whoever.
And that's one of the I have a personal respect for Plus Ultraman, probably higher than I would have for most people, just because of the steps that he took with me. And he didn't have to talk to me. He didn't have to reach out to me. He didn't have to do anything. But he was the one who did the reaching out. He had the initial idea. We brainstormed on it. He took the reins on writing the script, which helped me become a better writer. Then he gave me, pointers. And it was just like a father teaching a young child, which is odd to say because I am older than him. But from day one, it was just, you could do this way. You should do this way. This is the feedback I have for you. Always giving, criticism, but not negative. It was always reinforcement on the direction you should take, and this is why you would want to do it. There's always the explanation, which was the one thing that I always wanted. Don't just tell me that it's bad. Tell me why it's bad. Give me an opportunity to fix it, because what it is maybe I don't like the idea that you came up with, but what it does do is it creates the thought for more ideas. So I can kind of take it in a certain direction that isn't exactly their idea, but it's still better than what I had. And it's not because I didn't like their idea, it's just because I want to make sure that I'm creating my own style that's different but on par with yours.
So as far as like direction and whatnot, so how would you describe your what if writing style compared to like other people like in your genre at the moment?
So I would say a prime example of this we'd have to talk about the growth of me from over the past year and a half.
Yeah, we can start off that.
So if you look at What If Ash was born in Unova, I have a very intricate story planned out for that, spanned over multiple regions. But the storytelling itself, I don't think was there in the early parts. I wanted it to be there, but I didn't know how to put it there. And then I went into the next series I did right after that was What If Ash won the Indigo League, and that was kind of just taking Ash in his home region and changing a scenario. But I was so scared to deviate from the canon on that one, because my mindset was, if I do that, then I'm going to upset the Pokemon fan base. So I was so scared to deviate from the canon, and I wanted to stick as close to it as much as possible without breaking the actual canon. So that's why that story is less detailed than what you see coming out of What If Ash was won the Sinnoh League. And I would say the prime example of where my storytelling is right now is where I'm at with What If Ash won the Sinnoh League. I'm very more detailed in the battles, and when it came to like the actual episodes that you have to rewrite and stuff like that, I would still just kind of stick to the canon but change things here and there. And it's like you have the episode where Ash ran into Snover. Well, in the original canon, Snover just wanted a friend, and they just let it go off with his school kids and a group of kids, and it just played and we never saw it again. But in my canon, my head canon was this was the perfect Pokemon for Ash to catch. Like, he could have had this thing. So I just said, okay, instead of him going off with the school kids, Ash caught it. And the primary reason was because Ash didn't have a grass type. I didn't give him Turtwig in this one, so he needed a grass type, and he also needed an ice type. So it was kind of a perfect fit. But then you get into the story of that I slowly built up over those kind of speedrun parts of Team Galactic, and adding certain things here and there, as far as them monitoring the stuff from the first movie, them stealing the stuff from the sky ship from Zero the Sky Warrior, and then it all culminating in the Arceus and Jewel of Life part. And it allowed me to expand further on like the team, the evil team of the region, while sticking still close to the idea of this is the anime and we're rewriting the anime. So I very much like going into detail when I need to, and it really comes down to the difference in the actual subject. So like a prime example is What If Ash 1 would be closer to the anime versus What If Ash was born. What If Ash is born is going to be a more detailed story with hidden nods here and there, slowly building up to the ultimate goal for the region, so to speak. And you're going to get more detail out of that subject than you would the What If Ash 1 series, because it's more based upon the anime, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense to me.
Yeah, so it comes down to the difference in the subjects. And then there's like the What If Ash and Paul travel to Unova one that I have going on. So that one started very much as following the anime, but quickly grew into a more expansive story. And you just had way more detail into that one as the parts got, longer, as the story got deeper into the actual region. And that also comes with the side effect of I started becoming a better script writer when a lot of these stories started reaching those points of the midway point in the story. And you'll notice that some of my parts started getting longer, and I went from doing 15-minute videos to 20-minute videos and then the 30-minute videos. And that's because I started getting better. And Plus will tell you, he goes, I was on a call with him and Pickle Dill the other night. We were talking about a project that we've been working on, and he was like, I gotta apologize for you guys for that, because I'm directly guilty for making you guys want to tell longer stories. And I was like, that's all right, because it made me a better script writer, it made me a better storyteller in the end. So
yeah,
but
I can agree, because that is something that I got off initially when I started doing What Ifs, but then what happened was the opposite kind of occurred, and I'm convincing Smugstick to do shorter videos, which is really funny in hindsight.
I mean, I guess from the business standpoint, the algorithm favors shorter videos that are printed more often. But from like my aspect, I like a good story.
I don't think that's how the algorithm
really
works. So the thing is, there's a lot of like bigwig people, or like those like YouTube education type of channels. They say, oh, short videos are better. The thing is that more recently, I've seen like hour-long documentaries and longer stuff, and as long as the content's good, they usually do just as well, if not better, because of ad rates. This is the thing.
I guess it comes down to subject matter then.
Yes, and I think the other thing that's been good recently is that there's a lot of What If content creators sticking to one initial story and trying to finish it to release like the full compilation versus doing multiple at once, because that basically makes it more diverse for the viewer experience, because originally there were so many people doing the same thing with Dragon Ball, but now I see people do different stuff now, which is really cool to see.
Yeah.
Because everyone wants to finish their series first, basically. It's like
I could see that side of the argument. I really could. That's currently something I'm in the process of doing. I want to start finishing up a couple of the topics I have going on, so I can move on to the next one, because I have a 10K special that I'm currently working on in the background. That is, I would say, it's going to change how the genre of the Pokemon What If is told.
That's fair.
And it's kind of a big deal for me, because like this is a whole new original story. And it's a very very obscure topic. So, and I've been taking a lot of time, because it does involve Ash, I will say that. But there's a lot of characters that are gonna be brand new characters that have never appeared in any medium of Pokemon. They've been created exclusively by me. And I'm hoping that it's a big one, because it's something that I've been really excited for since I was like at the 5,000K mark, because that's when I first came up with the idea. So,
what's something you want your fans to take back from watching your What Ifs?
I want them to take back the biggest thing that I try to convey, and that's why I guess I have so many topics, is that, and this goes back to my kid days before there's YouTube and everything, where you used to read Marvel comics and stuff like that, and they'd have like the old What If scenarios or the Elseworld stories. And a character is only as limited as your imagination. So if you can think of an idea, that idea can become a full-fledged idea. And that's really what I like about it. So, like, who says Ash just has to be born in Kanto? Who said Ash had to win the Alola League? You know, that type of things. That was his trajectory in the anime. Don't get me wrong, I think he should have won a regional championship way before Gen 7, but that's a subject that for another video, another discussion. But the point is he could have won a regional championship much earlier. I mean, hell, he could have won a regional championship as early as Gen 3, if you're being honest and you want to take a logical standpoint from it. And he could have been born in any other region. I mean, you could talk about the aspect of his mom knew Professor Hale from the third movie, and his Professor Hale was based in Sinnoh, in Johto, but we don't know if he moved to Johto officially or if he was, from Johto. So who's to say that maybe his mom at some point came from Johto? We don't know if she's from Pallet Town. We don't know if she was born in the Kanto region. There's nothing officially announcing any of that stuff.
There's so much continuity stuff for Pokemon. It's either it contradicts itself or we don't have a solid date.
Yeah. So there's just that one little thing that could change the entire outlook of everything. So, and that's like Ash being born in Unova, Ash being born in Kalos, Ash being born in Johto, anything like that. Just one little change from something, or one official announcement from the Pokemon company about a certain character could drastically change the landscape of just the entire perception of our continuity of the franchise. And that would open up so many more doors of so many ideas and so many conspiracies and so many theories and stuff like that. And you're really only limited by your imagination when it comes to those things. So that's what I would want them to take away.
I really respect that. It's very deep for sure. Something I kind of wanted to ask, what do you think made What Ifs become their own community compared to how AniTube was when it started out?
So I guess you could say that just What Ifs in general. We're not talking about Pokemon. We're just talking about in general across the board.
That's what we're talking in general.
Yeah. So I would say the fact is that every story has an ending at some point. Even One Piece has a story that ends. And the problem is just because the story ends doesn't mean the fans go away. That doesn't mean that new fans are not going to come in. And you could use Dragon Ball as a prime example. At the end of Z, that was supposed to be it. And then they got money hungry and the franchise was ending, and they gave us GT. Which, whether you like GT or you don't like GT, that's your own personal preference. That I'm not here to argue that. But the point is it gave us something else to watch. As a fan, you were going to be drawn in. And What Ifs are the same type of content. Well, shit. It's over. Yeah, we have the manga, and there might be extra stuff in the manga. But that eventually is going to end. So then what happens? I'm still a fan. I need to feed this addiction that I have. And I think that's what bred just What Ifs in general. Because now you have other scenarios, and it's like, oh crap, I never even thought that could possibly happen, or I never even considered that as an option. But now this is a different story, and yeah, we have source material and it's still the same characters, but it's being told in a different way, and stuff happens in different lineage or different order than in the continuity, and it's like, oh, this is new, this is fresh, I'm invested. And you're invested because you're a fan of the franchise. But this other person, this random person you would have never probably met in real life, is now on this platform, in front of a video camera or in front of a mic, and they're telling me that they've come up with this scenario to feed my addiction. So I'm all in. That's what it is. That's what it comes down to.
All right, I kind of understand that.
Yeah.
All right, I think it's time to move on to some Discord questions. How's that sound to you?
That's fine. We can do that.
All right, so I picked out, for people wondering, the audience, basically, I picked out 3 from the community tab, as I found 3 that were notable to me. Most of them were taken from the Discord.
Okay.
So if anybody ever wants to ask questions for any of these things, be sure to be involved with your favorite content creators community, whether it's joining the Discord, following the Twitter, whatever, because that's how you get your stuff answered here. Just want to say that right now.
Yep.
Because some people ask, why can't my thing be answered? Well, you can't
didn't
do it
ask the
after the
question.
fact. You have to be involved with the community.
You didn't ask the question when we posted the question, so.
All right, so Pickle Dill asked 3 questions, so we're just gonna run through them real quick. So his first question is, what is your favorite your own what ifs that you made?
Favorite of my own what ifs that I've made. I have, so this would actually be a 2-part answer. So I have a personal bias to what if Ash was born in Unova, and that is probably the least performing what if on my channel right now. But because it's the one that I got started with, that one will always hold like a special place with me. No matter what anybody says about it, no matter the amount of views, it's a story that's going to get finished at some point in time. And then the other one that I'm most proud of right now, and this is from start to where it currently is what if Ash was born, or what if Ash won the Sinnoh League? And the reason for that one is because even though the first part was last November, that this is the one that's most consistent with how I've developed my style over the last 1.5 to 2 years. And when the full story comes out and when it's all said and done, it's going to be the one that is the most uniform to what I'm currently am. And that to me is like, to see where I started, to see the effort and the mistakes that I made and all the stuff that I've learned since then to be executed in a full story, and just in general, all compiled to the completion of a story, is what excites me the most, and that's what I like about it.
I think for myself right now, it's what if Perona joined the Straw Hats, and the reason being is that there's a generally slow build-up that has to take place, because with how I set up the what if, and now I'm reaching a point where, like, I'm at Dressrosa, I literally have like 3 separate parts for one arc, because how big Dressrosa is.
Yeah.
And it's just kind of like closure for it, because I really enjoyed like trying to turn this relatively niche side character into something a lot bigger than what she originally was intended to be for. Is the thing.
That's one of the things I like the most too about stories, taking a small character and giving them the spotlight. I do like that. So
I don't know if you follow One Piece or not. That's what I'm being specific with it.
I'll leave it at this. I know the characters, but the last time I tried to follow One Piece was when it was on Toonami in like 2004.
That's fair.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely a commitment, and especially with our commitments going on, I can understand it'd take a while for you to get in, or at least probably once it's finished, I assume you might pick it up.
Yeah, that's probably what's going to happen, honestly, with everything, with how life is now. I don't have as much free time as I used to. So,
what's one moment from a future part that you're most excited to get to?
This is from Pickle Dill.
Yeah, same person.
I am most excited for, this goes back to the what if Ash won the Sinnoh League. I'm excited to get to the Elite Four battles. And I'm currently excited for the Frontier battles, the Frontier Brain battles, because he's doing the Sinnoh League Battle Frontier. I'm most excited for those, and the reason for it is because it's stuff that didn't canonically happen. So you have essentially free will with everything. You can portray it however you want. You can be as creative as you want. You can take it any path. And that's what most excites me, because like we know it's going to happen. You know, the title is What If Ash Won the Sinnoh League? But how does he get there? What is the journey? And that's ultimately what Pokemon's about. The journey through the region, the journey to get to the end goal. That's what people tune in to watch on the episodes. Masters 8. Ash is, he just had his first battle with Steven. How is the battle going to play out? We know the battle's going to happen, but how does it play out? And they're not going to kill Ash in the first round. They're just not. It's not going to happen. So it's pretty much assumed that he's going to win at this point. So how is he going to win? You know, that type of thing. I'm most excited for those parts of, we know it's going to happen, but how does it happen?
Do you have a favorite legendary or mythical Pokemon? That's his last question here from him.
So
if you want to split it up, you can. If you want to do each.
No, I'll answer this with a. I'll answer this with a very. It'll be an in-depth answer, but it's probably going to be one that people don't really care for. Is I personally am not a fan of mythicals or legendaries, and you can bring this back to the Gen 1 boomer in me. I was always the type of person, I never wanted to try and play a game with a mythical or legendary on my team. I hated doing it. Hell, there was even some runs where I just didn't even bother trying to catch them. And I guess it goes back to Gen 2 is probably the most guilty of this. They're on the box art, you know they're there. So the mystery is kind of gone. I'm more of a fan of going into a region, like Gen 9's a prime example. I'm staying away from any and all leaked media right now, aside from the very first announcement of Gen 9 where they, display the starters and everything. But I try to stay away from the medium until the game is out, because I want a full-on experience. I want to experience the region for what it is. I want to get to know the Pokemon through my playthroughs, not through an announcement, And that was a lot easier way back in the day when all you had was a magazine that came out once every month or 2 months, and you had to go to a specific place to buy it. Because until you saw it on TV or until you bought the game, you weren't going to experience it. But now they're everywhere. You become some sort of presence, people start tagging you on it, and it's just like, you know what? It sucks. So, and for me, the legendaries have always been kind of ruined because they're the box art legendaries. You know who they are. You know they're there. Yeah, it's fascinating to figure out what their story is, but you already know where they fit into the story. And that's for legendaries. And then you have the concept of mythicals, which, don't get me wrong, I understand mythical Pokemon, but as far as in-game use, all the way back to Gen 1, when Mew was, considered to be just a joke, all the way until recently, mythicals, there's no real story with them in-game. And I get the idea of it being an elusive Pokemon and you have to go through all these special things. Like back in the day, you had to go to a certain event to get a ticket to take the boat to go to the specific island. I get that. But add a story to it.
I think the best one that I consider would be Darker. Actually gave his event a story somewhat.
Yeah. So I would say it's just legendaries, they're already exposed, and mythicals, you really don't know about the mythicals until a movie hits, or until it gets announced when it got announced in Korokora, or you see it on Cerebi or something like that, like the leak that happened with Black and White. They announced Genesect before it was supposed to be announced, and they caught all kinds of crap for it. But my whole thing is by the time they're announced, it's lost its luster to me because there's no story behind them. And if it's a mythical or legendary, the legendaries are part of the main story. So why can't there be a post-game story for the mythical? Even if you got to go through all this extra crap to get a ticket to go visit the special island to get the Pokemon, that's fine, but put a story in place for it, And then the legendaries are just kind of burnt for me because you already know they're going to be there. It's just, yeah. I'm very much a fan of exploring the region and getting to know the Pokemon themselves. Very long answer.
That's fine. Anyone who wants to check out Dill's interview after this, I'll throw that to end card here since I have interviewed him before, and we're gonna go into the next question from Alf4, and they asked, "What made you start creating Pokemon? What if specifically?" We kind of talked a little bit about that, and they asked, "Why did you start with Ash being born Unova?" That one's interesting to ask, actually.
The idea was, Gen 5 was supposed to be a soft reboot. And it's evident because of how the games were presented. The very first introduction to the games, Black and White, you could not get any pre-Generation 5 Pokemon until after you played the main story. And that was the idea behind it. It was like, okay, so if there's meant to be a soft reboot, so to speak, and you can't get any of these other Pokemon, so what if we told that from the perspective of Ash being born in Unova? Essentially, that's saying that this is his first region, and this is, if you look at Pokemon, it's distinctly split into two halves. You have the first half, which is 1 through 4, and that you can kind of consider that the boomer half, and then you have the next half, which is 5 through 8. And 5 through 8 is when Pokemon started going off a little bit off the rails from the normal canon, because in Gen 5, and even though it's not like a major mechanic, they do introduce the mechanic of fusion with Reshiram, Zekrom, and Kyurem, because they fuse. They have different, forms in Black and White too. Gen 7, the mechanic is Mega Evolution. Gen 8, the mechanic is Z-moves. Or it's Gen 7 is Z-moves. Gen 8 is Dynamax and Gigantamax. So from 5 through 8, it's been what's the gimmick. They started that in Gen 8 or Gen 5. So you can clearly see that there's a clear division between those two generations of the franchise themselves. And Gen 5 was very much a soft reboot because of that aspect. And so my whole thought process was, what if that's the new starting point? Let's put Ash at the new starting point, and that it just took off from there. So,
yeah, I agree with that. I think like when you go Gen 5 up, it feels like they're introducing more stuff, and it makes sense to change placement, especially with this character.
Yeah.
At least that's what I think personally, as far as that goes, for people wanting my opinions on Pokemon.
Well, many people don't even realize that the gimmick of Gen 5 was fusion. I mean, it's right there. Don't get me wrong, it's not as like plastered everywhere like Mega Evolution or Z-moves or Dynamax, but the gimmick was fusion. The main legendaries of the region, they fuse.
Yeah, I agree with that. I feel like that mechanic was underutilized because they could have done that with all the other Pokemon, did that for next gen if they really wanted to, but that didn't happen, which disappointed me at the time. Because like, this is cool. What if you do it with all the other Pokemon? Like, that could be insane. But obviously, balancing would be bonkers. Like, you would have to, because that's when the tournament scene, I believe, started actually with Gen 5 or around.
I would say
Gen 4 or 5.
The competitive, or not the competitive, the capacity of the Game Boy DSs at the time may not have been able to handle that type of thing.
So that's also true. I think a 3DS could handle it though.
Maybe, but it would have had to been a Black and White 2 type deal, and that may have been only why we got Reshiram, Kyurem, and Zekrom, is because of that. Because at that point, it's just too late in the generation. I mean, shit, Black and White 2 came out late 2012, and a year later, we were already on to X and Y. And at that point, there's no point in introducing a widespread mechanic in the second leg of a generation when you're going to have the next generation right around the corner with a new mechanic. So if they couldn't do it in the first set of games for Gen 5, then there's no way they're going to do it in the second set.
Let's see, I found this question interesting from Summer Carnardi. They basically asked, when you started Kalos Ash for the What If, you explained that you wrote it more by the like seam of your pants rather than plan it out like till the end how you usually do. So how has it felt so far to come from that, like switching over? I guess what they're asking.
So this will be a confession. For What If Ash was born in Kalos, not one time from the part 1 to the current part 9 that just released last week have I ever penned a script for that. Not once. It is literally me sitting in front of a microphone going, what idea works, and just rambling until I get something together that works. And I guess you can say it's hubris on my part, but I wanted to see how something like that would play out. And where it is currently is nowhere near what I thought it could turn out to be when I first started it. And like the idea of the aura Pokemon, that there's specific Pokemon that's tied to each legendary, and I haven't revealed the reason yet. But the idea that there's specific Pokemon, their coloration is off because it's tied to the legendary of the region, that actually wasn't even an idea or a concept until I was literally sitting there editing the video number 2, and I gave Ash Cranidos. And I was looking at the shiny, and I was like, shiny looks really cool. And then I was looking at the shiny of Evoltal, and I was like, damn, these things look really similar. Colors are just slightly off. What if I tied these two together somehow? And then that's how that idea was born. And then from that point out, it just grew out. But there was never any scripting. There was never any forethought of them happening. It's literally just me sitting down and going, what sounds interesting? What can my brain come up with? And then I just ramble on until I get a cohesive thought. And it turns out to be a 30-minute video. That's really bad, I know. Do not follow that formula. I'm surprised that it's worked. Probably just as surprised as you guys are who's listening to this.
I think it depends what type of story you want to go for. Like, for example, with this is going to be a more funny example because it's a more recent thing, but for What If Bardock Betrayed the Saiyans, the concept was basically loosely based off of Toei Animation originally wanted Bardock to be a villain and fight Goku at some point. It got changed in production. So what I did was I took whatever notes they had that was translated. It's like, all right, this is Bardock's character. The reason he blew up the reason why he blew up Planet Vegeta is because nobody believed him, despite him trying to warn them that they're all gonna die. And he does it like in spite. And that just changes like everything from that point on. Yeah. Because Gine just thought he was insane because originally Gine wasn't involved in the original Z special. Because that's what I loosely based it off of. Because they had to keep Super somewhat canon for it to work. So it was like, Gine just thought he was crazy, which I think most people reasonably would. Like, if you're getting future visions. You think
what kind of LSD are you dropping right now, sir?
Like that's the thing. Like, even people thought I was crazy. I was doing is like there's people told me like, well, Bardock wouldn't do that. Well, things like if we're talking about original Z movie, Japanese sub, Bardock's a completely different character from what they wrote in the dub. Like it's very well known that characters get changed a lot.
Because it's got to fit the SEC regulations, so on and so forth. You know.
Yeah. Which I think today, if stuff was redubbed, it would be a lot different story.
Oh yeah, 100%. Just because things have loosened up, like they were so. I think there was a lot of. What's the word I'm looking for? A lot of hesitation, I guess, because of the history that the United States and Japan have had predating 1945. So they didn't want to. They wanted to limit their influence of the American audience, I would say.
Yeah, and I would say today they respect the material more than they used to, even though I still think translation-wise it still could be better, but it's fine
100%. 100%. Gotta protect the children.
Grace Hokage asks how you edit your videos.
So my videos, what's the easiest way to explain this? I mean, obviously scripting, recording, those are the first parts, then going through and editing the audio. That's the next step I do. And sometimes I'll like the raw audio before I edit it out, I'll have like a 10-minute section of audio. And after I edit it out, it's like 4 or 5 minutes. And it's just because I don't like, if I screw up a part, I don't restart recording from the beginning. I'll take the section instead and I'll redo the lines for that section. So it'll all be on the same line of audio. And then I'll edit out any like unnecessary spaces or anything like that. And then after that, it's building the video. Because I'm working off a laptop and the laptop itself has been maximized for editing capacity. But with that being said, it was never meant to be an editing piece of equipment. So I have to render my videos in sections. So what I'll do is I'll go through and I'll build the background first with the audio intact, and then I'll render that. And then after that, I'll go through and I'll add in like the characters for the scenes and stuff like that, and then I'll render it. And then after that, I add the final overlay, which is what you guys usually see with the Pokemon on it, and the Pokeballs with the badges and stuff like that. Shrinking the video down to size to match the overlay window and so on and so forth. So it's usually 3 renders of different videos in process until I get to the final product just for the actual video itself. And then because of the way I structure my videos, I have the story part of the video, and then I have the intro and the outro, and those are all shot at different times. I don't do those all in one session because the intro and the outro they're on camera, and then the story is over. It's visuals, and it's not me actually on camera. It's actually a full visual piece. And then once I have those rendered, and then I'll just render it all together. So in total, you're probably looking at like 5 or 6 different renders until one video is finally completed. So that way I don't bog down the capacity of my laptop, because the last thing I'm trying to do is fry the one thing that I have to make the videos, so to speak.
No, that's fair, especially when doing something like that. I assume like your next investment would be upgrading your computer, I assume.
Yeah. So the big thing is I do want to. I'm not limited by funds by no means.
No, I get that.
What I'm limited by is space. So because I went from my kitchen table to now I'm currently talking to you in my bedroom closet in an area that I made a desk out of. So
do you want to know something funny?
What was that?
So My Hero, My Life, he's also a family man. That's where he recorded when he did his interview. He was in his closet.
Yeah.
Well, the other person that helps on his channel has his own space, so it's kind of funny looking back. That's the older people just recording the closet for whatever reason.
Well, this is, I live in a 3-bedroom apartment in Las Vegas. I don't have a house here, so space is very limited, and the closet is big enough to where I can have my own dedicated workspace to where I can edit my videos, I can record and get really good sound quality out of it, so on and so forth. So that's
there's practical reasons you.
Yeah, and it's like it's not exactly small. I'm a big guy, I'm plus 300 pounds, so I have room to work right here. It's just fitting a computer into this area where I'm sitting is kind of a task. So I'm currently in the process of shopping around, but I'm considering an all-in-one. I just want to see how powerful I can make an all-in-one, because that would be the best thing to have for my current setup. So
yeah, I would recommend being cautious if you're building it yourself, because obviously if you screw something up, it could be a couple $100 mistake.
It's not necessarily a building myself. It would be more along the lines of buying one that's already made, and then
it's one of those,
upgrading what I can upgrade inside of it. So graphics card, processing power, memory, stuff like that. So, but my question is it worth it to do it, or am I gonna end with the same result of what I currently have? That's the main thing. So.
No, I get that.
Yeah, so that's where I'm currently at, and it's with everything else going on, that's kind of taking a back seat. And whenever I have a free moment or just want to sit down, I'll start doing a little bit of research, take some notes, and then move on. And I'll come back to my notes later and then, compare and stuff like that.
Yeah, I would recommend people to consider building one now because parts are now becoming more accessible, especially graphics cards. But
yeah,
the thing is that also is happening that should be obvious for at least most older people is that we're possibly going to recession soon. So you wait.
It's already here. It's already here. Whether you want to admit it or not, it's already here. So
I mean, I don't know. I'm one of those people who thinks that's gonna happen like more full force like next year is my thing. Like I think
officially it's documented as two quarters of the GDP being down, and we find out the report for the second quarter of the GDP this coming week.
Oh, so we do? I didn't know it was that close, do actually.
So if it is negative GDP growth just like quarter one, we will officially be in a recession. I personally think we're already here. I don't think we've seen the worst of it, but I think we're already here.
I guess that's fair enough.
So.
Do you think it will be like as bad as 08, you think? Since I know you would have been around that time.
No, I don't. I think inflation is a huge problem. The main thing that we're facing right now is the willingness of people wanting to spend money. It's not that the money's not there. Because in 08, the biggest problem was people were leveraging things that they couldn't afford. And we do have a bit of that now, but it's not as bad as the housing crisis of 08. And the main thing that we have is the hyperinflation, or it's not even hyperinflation, just the inflation has, it's gotten to, it was 9% officially as of the June numbers, I think it was. But it's gotten out of control because of all the free money printing. So the government is trying to get that under control by A, raising interest rates, and B, they're also trying to sell off the assets in their portfolio to take the money back in so they can pull it out of circulation. Problem is they need the people to want to buy their assets. It's a two-step process. You need to raise the interest rates to make borrowing money more expensive to curb inflation, but you also have to pull the money out of circulation. If they are successful with one and unsuccessful with the other one, then it's going to take longer, and the effects are going to be felt longer. Essentially, that's just how the American economy works, because it's a debt-based economy. So in order for them to curb that inflation, they need both things to take hold. And the problem is people are afraid to spend money right now. And like you can see it in the stock market, things are going down. They're trending down. My personal portfolio has been trending down. My stocks, I a lot of the stuff I'm invested in is their blue chip stock stuff that's been around a long time. They have track records, but everything is still trending down. And it's because people are afraid to spend money. They're selling things off because they want to hold on to things. They want to hold on to their nest egg. And unless they can, the government can convince the people to buy their assets off of their balance sheet, then it's going to take longer for inflation to hit start to go down instead of trending up. And that's just a natural fact of order of things, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's kind of why, like, right now I'm trying to build this computer as soon as I can before I have to sort out my moving schedule, basically. If that makes sense.
Yeah, I got you.
Because at least that means money goes back into the economy because I'm making a relatively large purchase.
Yeah, that's completely understandable.
And it'll basically pay itself off because inflation will just be worth more afterwards, I feel like.
Yeah, that's true.
Because people will be like, oh, well, now we need to get stuff. It's like too late, kind of like what you said.
Yeah, it's 100% what it is. So,
all right,
it's tragic.
Asked what your favorite what if someone else has done.
That's a pretty broad question. And
do you want to just do like a top 10?
No, that might take too long. So let's do a top 5. Let's do a top 5. So we can do a top 5, and I can kind of like do maybe if I feel like Pokemon versus just general in a certain spot, we can do that. So I would have to say at number 5, currently right now, this is an ongoing story on Pickle Dill's channel, is I really, really like his What If Ash was Brandon's son. And the reason I like that is because it explores a Pokemon journey from the idea that the only obstacle is the battle frontier. And I really like the battle frontier because it's kind of like the Wild Wild West. Yes, it's an organization, but there's no set structure to it like the Pokemon League is. You have to go through the gyms to get to the tournament to challenge the Elite Four. That's like the structure. Battle Frontier doesn't have that. There's 7 facilities, 6 facilities, 5 facilities, whatever generations you're talking about. And each facility, they're not a gym leader. They're an Elite Four level member. That's what they are. And so they're automatically built strong. And not only that, but aside from Ash just challenging the battle frontier at the end of the advanced generation, we didn't really get the in-depth level of storytelling like we would get with like the manga or a regular gym arc. So I really like the aspect that he's took from that point of view. Number 4, there's one that I'm really enjoying right now. I recently discovered their content within the last couple of weeks. I haven't watched all the parts yet, and they're still fairly, I wouldn't say they're new to YouTube, but you can tell they're still in the early phases of trying to figure things out.
Yeah.
But his name is Electro Pikachu, and he's currently doing a What If I Wrote Pokemon Journeys, and I like the direction that he's taking with that. I don't want to spoil any of it. I would encourage other people to go check it out. Just because I think if they get the ability to increase their skill level as far like what I did, then they can gain a lot of traction. And I don't even think they're part of my Discord server. So if they get the chance to see this or whatever, hop on in, have a discussion with some people. Number 3, and this one is a personal favorite of mine. It's from Plus Ultraman, and it's What If Goku Landed on Vampa. That story I'm really, really invested in, and the last part just released. I think it was yesterday, the day before. I don't remember when it released.
I edited part 3 for that one, and
Yeah,
that was a long time ago.
Yeah, he told me that he did part 5 was what just landed, so to speak. And he gave me early access to it because he knew how much I like the series, but I really, really like the direction that story's taking. And that goes back to like the originality of the story. And I like that there was the huge, if you haven't seen the part, I won't spoil too much, but there's a huge time skip in the beginning from the end of the 4th one to the beginning of the 5th one. So it keeps you invested because you're like, holy shit, wait. Even I was like, hold on. Did I miss something between the 4th and the 5th one? Did the 4th one not end the way I thought it did? And then I had to go back and watch the 4th one. I was like, okay, no, there is a huge time skip. So, but it's really well done, and I really, really, really like that one. And then from other creators, let me see here. Number two, I guess this would be a top 4. Because I don't really,
That's fine.
I can't think of a 5th one, but it would have to be number 1. Would go to the What If that I originally saw, which is from Moscow X. What if Raditz turned good? Like that was the first one I got introduced and like made the idea of a what if like an actual tangible concept. And it's just because that was the first one that I ever saw that it just kind of holds that special place with me. And sometimes I'll even go back and rewatch that entire scenario because I really enjoyed it from start to finish. So
I think for me, that's when, like, I was watching that series for a long time. But what happened was, with that series, that influenced every other Dragon Ball, like, what if creator to kind of write the character the same.
Yeah.
Unfortunately. I think that's when, like, I kicked off more, like, with my content, most of it fits more in the genre, like more satire, more meant to be funny for a lot of my stuff.
Yeah.
Like I used to take it seriously, but then I realized like it's kind of like what everyone else is doing. It's like I don't want to do that anymore to an extent. So I've been trying to expand outlets
You know
as
what?
far as that goes.
I got a number 2. I can't believe I forgot about this one. So number 1 would be Raditz, and then number 3 would be the Vampa one. But there's one I actually really enjoyed from Salad Sane, and it was What If Beerus Was a Z Fighter? I really liked that one.
Oh yeah, Salad's pretty cool. I should have him on here some point. I always get lost in track when I schedule people for these.
Yeah, I gotcha.
Why EXE asked a lot of questions, but I chose this one because this particular one I liked. So he asked, what helped you spark your passion to go the extra mile?
That's from a personal standpoint. That's not a what if thing. That's not a I'm new to YouTube thing. That is a personal point of pride with me. I'm personally, no matter what I'm doing, I know that it can be better. So the question is how do I get there? And I'm my own worst critic. I will do something, watch it 100 times, and oh yeah, it looks good. And then it'll go live, and I'll jump in and I'll start watching it with everybody else if I have the opportunity to, or I'll watch it at a later time. And then it's just like, damn it, how did I miss that one thing? How did I miss that? You know? And oh, you know what? I may have been watching somebody else's what if video, and I don't know them personally, but they may be a larger content creator than me. But I see an effect, or I see an instance in their video that's visually displayed on screen, or I hear certain noises or something like that, and it's like, that's interesting. I've had a couple scenarios where I could have done something similar to that. How do I make that happen? And until you start asking the question, you won't know to find the answer. And so I'm always the one who's asking the question, comparing myself to other people, and to push myself forward to get my content better. And that's how I was able to close the gap with my ability in creating content in such a short amount of time. Because if you look at my first videos to where I'm at now, there's a world of difference. We're talking light years. And it's always because I'm trying to get to that next level. I'm trying to create a better thing. But that's just across the board with me and just life in general. I look at something I'm doing and I'm not happy with the way I'm doing it. I know the results can be better. How do I make it better? And that's the question I always ask.
I think that's a good thing, because you ask yourself, like, what can I do better from the next video? And I've told people when I do YouTube consulting on sites, like, that's the main thing you need to ask yourself when you post a video each time. It's like, what can you do to improve it from the last one?
Yeah.
That's the main thing I tell people.
Yeah, that is 100%. You have to do that. If you don't, then you're never going to get farther.
Serena Lover 666 asked, what is your favorite Pokemon character?
Are we talking...
They're talking from the anime specifically, I guess.
Anime specifically, yeah. So, and this will probably give away, like, how I may approach things a little bit later on. But my favorite kind of character is the type of character that was presented and they have an interesting backstory or an interesting concept, but they've never gone anywhere with. So a prime example of this in Pokemon is Richie, the rival from the first generation, that just so happened to show up at the Pokemon League. And he's really the first. The anime has always been notorious for showing a last-minute rival at the Pokemon League that Ash just happens to lose to for whatever reason. But the most interesting ones are the ones that you could go somewhere with. Like, Richie is very similar to Ash, and they even, played jokes at it in the dub about how him and Ash catch a lot of the same Pokemon and stuff like that. But then we get a follow-up to him and Johto, and it's revealed that he had a Pupitar. And at the time, Ash was about to be traveling with Larvitar in a couple episodes later. And they're thinking, that kind of hinted at this prospect of Ash might get a Larvitar and he might have a Pupitar or a Tyranitar by the time he gets to the league. Never did. Never happened. But Richie has this pseudo legendary now. And then it was revealed in what was it, Pokemon Chronicles? He caught a Talo, which Tracy said, "Oh yeah, Ash caught one of those." Just so happens. So it's like I would be very interested in following up with a character like that. That's his similarities are so close to Ash in the Pokemon he catches, but he is clearly on a different path. Like every instance we've seen Richie from after the Indigo League, he's not in a league. He's not challenging a league. So what the hell is he doing? Chronicles, Johto, he's just exploring. Another one that I really like is AJ from the first generation. The one episode that he was in, he was billed as this really, really strong trainer. Never saw anything from him again. And it'd be nice to get more. So, but I think that's the type of thing you only appreciate as you get older, because you start looking back at these niche characters and you go, man, the concept of them was there. It just was never explored,
All right. I got 3 from the community tab that I picked out. So Secret Show asks, what was your biggest improvement out of all of your time making videos on YouTube?
Audio. That's an easy one.
I would agree with that. Like,
audio.
There's no question.
That is super
that I've seen for myself.
Yeah. You go back to that first video and you can hear the hesitations, the pauses, because in that stage it was just record and then build the video. There was no editing the audio itself. So I didn't even think of editing the audio as a concept that was part of editing the video. My thought process was, well, editing the video is just, building the video. And
there's a lot of people make mistakes thinking that you're supposed to edit the audio while editing the video.
That's what I tried. That's what I tried in the first couple of ones. That's why you get these weird ass cuts and everything. And it was just my editing, the editing software that I use, it's a bad idea to edit audio in that. So I swapped over to Audacity, editing the audio before I actually, start building the video. So yeah, the audio is the easiest thing, because, you're still trying to find your delivery as far as how you want to talk. And there's also this whole thing in the beginning, because you don't, for me personally, but I didn't really have an experience talking on a microphone. And it's always easy for me to talk to somebody in person or right now in a one-on-one conversation, because you can feel the tone, you can talk, and you can feel how the other person's reacting, and you have somebody to listen to you. But when you're recording lines and you spend your whole life talking to people, but now you're not really talking to anybody, you're just talking and you're reading, and it's just you have to refine your ability to talk. You have to refine your ability to deliver, because now it's not your delivery is not based upon the other person. The delivery is based upon the tone of the story, how you want to execute it, and that's something you have to discover yourself.
Yeah, I can understand that. To be fair, that's kind of why I mostly moved to collabs, because my main channel's now partly a side thing at this point, because I edit majority for other people.
Yeah,
to an extent.
Yeah, that's easy to understand.
And I still can do my own stuff. The thing is, it just feels more boring to me versus sharing the experience to do something.
Yeah,
my thing.
That's understandable. That is 100% understandable. That's why I enjoyed doing the GSA with Plus Ultraman, because when we get to talking about the project, because people don't understand collabs, you spend a lot of time discussing things before you actually even get to the script writing process. So it gives me a time to get inside his brain on where he's seeing where the story might be headed. Gives him a chance to get inside my brain. We get a chance to actually talk about things, and that also can spark ideas for what other content and stuff like that. So I can understand that.
Yeah, it's not that I don't dislike doing my own stuff. It's just not as intriguing as it used to be when I originally started out.
Yeah.
far as that goes. All right, got two more. So someone asked. Let's see. This is from. Let's see. My bad. I think I mixed up some of the question.
That's all right. That's all right.
Oh, they asked another question. It just tabbed out. They also asked your favorite what if you made, but we already discussed that. That's why I skipped over it. Okay.
Yeah.
Robert Curhan asked, how hard has it been to balance your life while making content?
I mean, I think we touched on this a little bit earlier, but I'll go a little bit.
Yeah,
I'll go a little bit more in depth on this one. So if you're just tuning in right now because you missed the last like hour and a half, I have a full-time profession in the restaurant industry, which anybody who's ever worked in the restaurant industry on a management level knows that can be very demanding if you don't have a good sense of what you're doing, which luckily for me, I'm very talented in my field and it allows me a lot of free time. So with that being said, that's 40 to 50 hours out of my week that I have dedicated to that. Then I also have a wife and I also have two kids, and their age gaps are very wide. My oldest is 13, my youngest is 4. So you can imagine with the 4-year-old, they demand a lot of attention because they don't know any better. All they do is play, run around. My son is a ball of energy, trust me. So, and then there's also my wife, which if you guys know anything about relationships, which some of you may not, if you don't put time into a relationship, it fails. So you have to dedicate time to those types of things as well. Luckily for me, my wife and me, we've been together for like 12 years, 13 years. So we're very seasoned in that aspect, and she understands that this is a passion of mine, and she very much like when I was playing Yu-Gi-Oh, she very much lets me do what I need to do for the most part. With that being said, I still have to plan around a lot of things. So I plan when I'm doing a video, I'll take one day off, and that day off is going to be my day to edit. I do all the pre-work ahead of time, making renders for the videos, making the thumbnail, and this is all like in my normal week when I have time to do it. Writing the script and recording the audio. And then when I have a day off, it's okay, so today is going to be the day. What do I got on the docket for today? I got doctor's appointments, I got grocery shopping, I got this, I got that. So I know I have to knock out those things first before I can get to the other things. What most people don't know about me is I have a very, very, very long work day. And that's not just counting my professional career. I usually sleep about 4 a.m. my time, and I'm usually up about 9 a.m. my time. So I sleep about 5 hours a day. And that's all I sleep. And then once I'm up, I'm doing other things. I'm checking things online, checking some other business ventures that I may have. I could be looking at current content creators, maybe people that I want to maybe people that I may want to collab with, or like when I reached out to you for the interview, doing other stuff, and then it's off to work if I got to do that, or what can I get done before I have to go to work? What can I get done before I have my next appointment, so on and so forth. And then like all my recording is all done late at night. We're talking between 1 to 3 a.m. because that's when my kids are asleep. That's when it's quiet outside, so I can get the best sound quality and I won't be interrupted, and I can actually dedicate to doing it. So the whole day is pretty much involved at some point somewhere. And I have downtime in between then, and in between things, doing things and stuff like that. Like today, prime example, after I get off the call with you and we're done with this interview, I got about an hour. I'm going to take my wife to work. I'm going to spend some time with the kids, figure out what we're going to do for dinner. And then I'm going to be right back on a call with Plus Ultraman, and we're going to be talking about my 10K special, because that one's going to be a massive project, and I'm going to be looking for voiceover work for that. And he's going to play a big part in one of the characters in that one. So we're going to start creating the backstory for that character. We're also going to be talking about season 2 of GSA. And we already pretty much got the first 2 episodes figured out and what we're going to be doing. and I know there's a lot of fans of that particular scenario. So that's something to look forward to. And we're also going to be talking about the expanded universe that we hinted at during the outro of the full story. So that's probably going to be like another 5 or 6 hour session with just us talking, because we're going to be covering a lot of different topics. So that's also something. So that's just a brief glimpse into what I do. That's not even talking, like, I also talk with Pickled Dill. I also talk with Mystic Umbreon every now and then. I converse with a lot of people on calls. I talk with Dex Comics every once in a while, because there's something that we're probably going to be working on once he gets stuff figured out with his computer and everything. So like there's a lot of stuff in the pipeline, and there's a lot of things that require a lot of attention, and it takes time. So just, you can see how my schedule's laid out, that it's very much a fine wire balancing act. And that's when I say, like, I'm going to be taking time off, I legitimately mean I'm taking time off. I stay away from anything that has to do with any type of work, because I'm 100% dedicated to just enjoying the moment. So I hope that answers the question.
Yeah, I think so. Final one, someone asked, what is your age?
So my age, I am currently, at the time of recording this, 34 years old. So I'm significantly older than most people you've probably met. I'm older than Mystic Umbreon. I'm older than Plus Ultraman. I'm older than him by a decade. I don't know what's your age, but I'm pretty sure I'm older than you. I'm older than Pickled Dill by at least a decade. I know that much. Yeah, I picked a very, very, very odd time in my life to want to get into YouTube, because most of the people you see getting in, they're late teens, early 20s for the most part. Some of them might be, in high school, just trying to figure out their niche maybe, but they're still very early on in their life. I'm in the middle of my life right now starting this, so it's very different for me.
Yeah. My bad. Doug heard something outside. I'll probably just cut part of that around best I can.
That's all right. That's no problem.
Let's see. Well, that concludes all of those questions. I want to kind of wrap it up with some like general YouTube questions. That way it's less what if focused.
Sure. Go for it.
So I had one, like, what would you advise people who feel like quitting doing like what if content, or just want to quit YouTube, like, in general? Like, do you have anything for that?
So just talking from my own personal experience, first things first is you have to have goals. If you just go into it to see how it happens, then you're going to get bored very quickly. You have to have goals. So like I said earlier, my goal was to get to 5K subs in the first year, or I was going to consider quitting. I hit 5K 200 by the time December had rolled around. And that was my personal measuring mark to see if I was onto something. But because I had the goal, that forced me to push harder, to do things, to learn faster, stuff like that. So you need to set yourself goals. And Mystic Umbreon said, don't compare yourself to his advice. His personal advice to me was, don't try to compare yourself to other people. Don't do that, which is true in a certain mindset. But my biggest thing is most people won't. I've never said this about anything, but when I first started, so I looked at, I don't know if you know Zonolith. He does other content. He's currently rewriting.
I don't know who that is.
Yeah, he's currently rewriting the X and Y anime. He completely rewrote the black and white anime, and he's currently rewriting the X and Y anime. I like his content. I do watch it, but he was bigger than me for a while, and I was like, my own personal goal was, I need to get bigger than him. So I quickly surpassed him, and then I just took off, and his sub count is much lower than mine at the current time, and it's not because I have any ill will, but he was like the first He was like the first milestone. It was like, okay, if I can get bigger than this guy that's already doing it, then I think I'm onto something. And then I hit that. And then it was like, okay, so what's my next milestone? And I have a couple of milestones in mind. Actually, you were one of my milestones, and I just recently surpassed you. And I was like, I need to get as big as this guy because he's working with, other people that are much bigger than me. So, and I think I just recently surpassed you not too long ago.
Yeah, I think you did. My thing is like, when people ask me, it's like, do I care much about sub goals? To me, it's changed more about the story because the thing is, I lost time for my own channel because I do stuff for other people.
Yeah.
And that's not as big a deal for me to lose out because the thing is, like, I will always have the connections with the other
Yeah.
people that I talk with. So it doesn't matter to me if I lose in like a sub race with anybody.
Yeah. And see, that's the opposite of me because I don't have the connections because I haven't been doing this as long. So my
that's
thought
fair.
process is I need to get bigger so I can gain the attention. And if I gain
Well, the
the
other
attention,
thing is that you need their respect as well because
yeah,
people to recognize you at this
yeah.
point. For me, it's like the
So
people who I care to recognize me already do. Like that's
yeah,
what I want.
and my whole thing is like, and Mystic Umbrian said it best: don't try to compete with people. And I'm not currently at the point to where I'm competing with people. I'm currently at the point to where you're my next milestone. If I want to stay interested and I want to continue to drive forward, I need to get to this next person. Who's next? Who's next that is within range? Can I get to this person's level? And if I can get to this person's level, then who's the next person? And then who's the next person? And to me, the never-ending chase, the never-ending race is what keeps me motivated to do it. I just want to keep pushing. So you need to have goals that you need to set for yourself. And like in all honesty, my ultimate goal is when people talk about the what if community for Pokemon on YouTube, my name should be the first name that comes up. That's my goal. And it's just like when people are talking about Dragon Ball what ifs, Moscow X is like the name that comes up first. If not, then he's definitely within the top 5, right? So
I would agree. He would come up in discussion because he was one of the first people to do it.
And that's my goal. I don't want a conversation about a Pokemon what if to end without my content being mentioned. So that's the driving factor for me. I didn't start the genre, but I helped popularize it. And that's my driving force. The community was so small, it was basically non-existent at that point, that I was able to help branch it out. And then you just, like in 2021, when I started, you just saw this flurry of people jumping in on it, and they either didn't do the content anymore or they fell off because they were multiple creators doing multiple different topics on their channel, and they just didn't like how Pokemon views were doing, which I understand that because it's such a niche community right now that you're creating the community, you're creating the interest, and you have to get people to realize, hey, I am interested in this. So,
well, I think the other thing is like when people ask me why don't I do Pokemon what ifs, the reason being is that there's a lot of dedication that also goes into it, similar to One Piece, and I just so happen to like One Piece a bit better.
Yeah,
than
that's
Pokemon,
fine
personally.
And that's your personal preference, and there's nothing wrong with that. But that's where my whole thought process is on it. Is just my ultimate goal is like I want to be as big as Moscow X. I want to be as big as Salad Saiyan. I want to be as big as Plus Ultraman. Plus Ultraman right now, he's like my main measuring stick. I need to get to his spot.
No, I agree. I think that should be your next thing, because when I first started editing with Anime Sage, like he was like half the subs he was, and it's like, if I don't double your sub count, then basically I was playing Elite. Well, we did, like by July here, like we did double it, and we passed everything like all beyond all of his expectations. Like he thought he was gonna hit 50K way later than expected. Yeah. And currently our end goal is to try to get 100K for his channel by the end of the year, and while that is a very high stretch for myself, the thing is like, if we keep our dedication we have been in certain months, then we'll be fine. Because there's some on-off months, because you'll get that with artists, like people get burned out and whatnot, and that's normal. Like, that's to be expected in the best people, in my opinion.
Yeah, there's a quote that reminds me. I think it was Vince Lombardi that said this. I could be wrong, but it was nobody's perfect, but if you chase perfection, you catch excellence. So that's a prime example. You set your goal high, and if you set your goal high but you don't make it, one of two things is going to happen. You're either going to be disappointed because you didn't make it, and it's going to drive you harder, or you're going to look back at it and go, I didn't make it, but damn, I got close because I drove harder, you know? So
well, I think the third thing you can look at is like, what did you do wrong? How can you improve from the last time as well?
yeah. But that could be like, there's moments of reflection, and a prime example would be so in the food industry you have what they call coaching on the spot, which means like, can you give somebody positive feedback right then and there? And then there's the feedback that needs to be given in private. So, and you can apply that to yourself when you're being your own worst critic. You look at a video you just did, and that's on the spot. I need to fix that going forward. And then you can look back at all the stuff you've done, and you can go, look at how much I fixed. It was great, but I need to make sure I don't make all of these mistakes going forward, you know?
I can relate to that.
Yeah. So goals and sticking to it. It's not an excuse of I can't do it because I don't have time. You guys just listened to my schedule. If I can find time with me being the only person that does my content, and that's not even counting on when we throw GSA on top of those, because those videos are like an hour long plus. And I usually edit one of those, plus I have to do recording for most of them, and those scripts are like 24 pages minimum for most times. So
I believe you.
Yeah. So when you're talking about recording, which a 24-page script, you might be able to do a 5 to 7 page in one recording, but like a 24-page script, that's like 3 days over the course of a period. And that's not even counting the editing of the audio before you get to the actual editing of the video. So if I can accomplish that with the schedule that I laid out that I had, then in my honest eyes, I don't think there's any real barrier holding people back from doing something. That's just my honest opinion.
Well, I would say for myself, like, I deal with some mental struggles time to time. That's the thing that I deal with. But I think what's changed, though, is because when you have to deal with priorities of other people, that can heavily improve how you have your own outlook with your own content.
Well, that's also too. I'm sorry, I should have said this. I'm talking from the perspective of wanting to be a content creator for yourself.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, you're talking from the concept of, yeah, you have your own channel, but your priority is not your own channel. Your priority is doing editing and growing other channels, which is fine. That's your outlook. But my outlook is, I am growing my brand. This is me. So
well, I think the best point that I want to bring up is that you said earlier that you want to make sure like you make it with what you're doing. That's what this correlation is. It's like, if you don't think you're going to get further, your next best step is to find someone you think will be successful with your assistance and help them get there, because that's your next best option, realistically. I would say it comes down to your perspective. If you want to get there and you know that you can get there, you're going to get there. Like I said, my goal was 5,000 subscribers, and I told myself if I wasn't going to get to 5 subs in my first year, that was it. I hit it. Okay, we're off to the races. We're going to keep going. Simple as that. And I proved to myself that if I push and I continue to push, then I'm going to move forward. And it's just been a nonstop thing since then. Even with all the stuff that's happened this year with me, the death of my grandfather, which out of everyone in my family, I was the one who had to personally take care of everything on that from start to finish. And just a couple of other things that have happened in the background that I haven't really talked about, but I still kept pushing forward. I took a month off because I needed to. I only posted one video, but I let everybody know, and I just kept moving forward. And I knew that it's gonna continue, and it's only gonna stop because I want it to stop, and I don't want it to stop. I want to keep pushing forward. So, right, and that's what you have to do. Like, stuff happens in life, and like, you have to sort your way around it. Similar feel like with my moving situation. Like, yes, it's sudden, but saying it's like I'm gonna go at it the best way I can and see how things go, really, because there's not much else I can do. I can't predict the future, but I can at least prepare ahead, technically.
That's all you can do. And that's essentially what I spend my time doing. I do my best to plan out every event that I know is coming up, and I know, like, okay, this is the last week of July, and I need to have 5 videos done, ready to go, at least with scripting for the month of August. That's my goal, and I have 4 done, ready to go. That all I got to do is just start the uploading process. So,
let's see. Have you ever received criticism from a video and managed to improve from it?
Yeah, that was a lot of my earlier videos.
Oh yeah, you already talked about this.
I would ask for feedback actively, and I would say, okay, so this is in the intro. It'd be like, okay, this is what I've changed. This is what I'm doing differently. Let me know after you watch the video how you feel about it. And then that's what really, really like grinded my gears, so to speak, is I would get to the point to where I do that, and then you'd get that negative comment. Oh, I don't know why Plus Ultraman's working with you. You suck. Okay, but why? What critique did you have? Don't just say it. Tell me what the problem was. Offer a solution to fix it. If you don't tell me what the problem was, then I won't know to look for the problem. Simple as that. That's just how it is. And that's a normal part of life, whether you're in any type of professional field. If you're going for your driving test. Oh, you failed because of this. Or you just failed. Okay, well, why did I fail the driving test? Oh, it's because you were speeding through a school zone. You can't do that. You might hit a kid. That type of deal.
Let's see. I'm gonna go through some of them since we have gone pretty long, I feel like, so I'm gonna skip a couple around.
That's fine. That's fine.
How important are platforms outside of YouTube to you?
This is a tough question for me. And it's because I usually try to compartmentalize and focus on what is the most important, which currently it is YouTube.
Yeah, that's fair.
That's why I'm not as active on Twitter as I should be. My Discord, you'll see me pop in every now and then, make comments, or I'll tag people and stuff. But I do try to be active in there and try to give feedback, but sometimes it just gets pushed to the back way because of everything else that's going on. Patreon, I'm heavily active in my Patreon, and I do respond to like messages and stuff like that on there, and it's because those are the people that are going the extra mile, and I want to make sure that they feel like that I appreciate them going the extra mile, because I really do.
I would expect anybody who has a patron to respect their patrons like that.
Yeah.
Like, if you're just collecting money at that point, then I have.
Yeah, so like whenever somebody signs on and they sign up and I get the notification, I'll send them a personal message. Hey, welcome, thank you for the support, that type of deal. And it may be a generic message, but I'm still, even if I'm at work, I'll stop and I'll write out the message and take 30 seconds to do it, just because it's something I really appreciate. Like that $5 may be nothing to them because it's just like $5 a month, but added up to me, that's like the next step in me potentially becoming a full-time creator, so.
What do you think about the what if community for the Pokemon scene so far, since you were a pioneer for it at the moment?
I think that there's a lot of raw talent. I really do.
Oh, I agree. Like, here's a good example. We talked about Dex earlier, right?
Yeah.
So the thing is, like, if you listen to his interview now compared to the content he does like right now, like from a year ago, there's so much that's changed. Like, we're already scheduling to do another interview just because of how much of an improvement that has changed, basically, due to just switching genres and content. Because you don't think about that first, but it
no, you don't, and it's also too. So I will say this: there's certain people that kind of jumped on the bandwagon right when it first started to ride the coattails of the popularity, but as soon as like they stopped getting views, they just kind of petered off. And they just focused on their regular money-making content, so to speak, which I can't blame them. If that's what they're known for, then that's what they're going to do. No problem. But there was other ones that just like, there was a couple of them, and I don't know if they still watch my content or not. But they started pumping out videos, and they were ideas that I had. There was one, I don't remember who made the what if, but it was what if Ash and Paul traveled to Unova, and they gave me full credit in the video and everything. But they kind of just got as far as like part 4 or part 5, and then it just died, and they lost that. At least finish the story or something like that, you know? And I think that the people that have actually stuck around to continue doing it are the ones that you're in 5 years, when it's had time to run its course and we see where this path is actually going to lead, that they're going to be the ones that are going to be talked about going, oh yeah, these people have stuck around, and they're going to be the channels that grew, that continued going, you know? And they may get to 100K, they may not, but the point is they're going to be the ones that are talked about it. Like Pickled Dill, for instance. I've talked with Pickled Dill several times, and I think he is an excellent storyteller, far better than what I'm capable of. And he, most people may not know this, but he actually wrote the script for the GSA 8, What If Giovanni Sponsored Ash Part 8. And it was because Plus Ultraman was going through finishing up school and exams, and I had a lot of personal stuff going on right now, and we wanted to get that part out. So we reached out to him, and he wrote the entire script for us just based upon our notes. And he did a great job on it. A great job. He's somebody that I think would go very far, and he would attract a lot of attention for people who like hearing a quality story. And then there's a couple of other ones. Let me see here. Obviously Plus Ultraman, who's partnering with me on GSA 8. I think Dex has a lot of really good concepts as far as his what ifs are concerned. I just wish he would post them more often, you know?
Well, like we mentioned, he has his computer thing. Like,
so,
I'll disclose this, since I don't think he would care if I say this. Like, there was a point where he was interested in commissioning me at a point, but at the time, it's like I was already juggling with too many people. I just couldn't take on an extra person at the time. Versus now, like I probably could if he asked again, but it's up to him really. Because I think he's like almost done working out his computer thing. I think he bought stuff recently.
Yeah, he's and when we chatted, he said that he got his power supply figured out.
Yeah,
that's all it was. So, yeah. And my biggest thing, and I know stuff comes up. I personally would like him. I just want to see the next part of his what ifs. So I really like his take on the what if Ash was born. What if Ash woke up on time? I really like his take on it. So I really wish he would post it more.
I think that he's gonna be close to a point where he could commission someone to edit stuff for him potentially, if he feels like it. The thing is, like, I don't know CPMs and whatever. Not I can guess from channels I work with, but it's like I said, you have no clue what content creators spend stuff on. Like, one recently said they just bought a mic for like so much money. It's like, I wouldn't spend that, but considering like where they're at, it's like I understand that if they want good quality audio, they can spend
that's 100% understandable. So yeah. So, like, I really like his content, and my biggest thing is, and I get that as a fan of his content, I just wish he would post more, but I know why he doesn't. So it's completely understandable.
It's similar, kind of like why I don't post as often. I have a reason. It's like, there's other stuff I'm doing that I'm never inactive in the community, which is, I think, more interesting in my perspective. It's like, you think about how much impact do you have when you start making content for other people who already kind of made it, in a sense, if that makes sense.
Well, that also comes down to what you find enjoyment of.
I think those are two different parallels. Like, some people want to try to do it, make it themselves, versus other people like myself. It's like, I wouldn't mind if I reached that point, but that's not my current end goal. It's like, you enjoy
the process of helping people. That's what it is.
Well, like I said, like, I like to interact with people more. That's why I realize. That's why I like collabing more. The thing is that it takes a while to do those, because it does.
Like it does.
You gotta talk with people, plus editing for other people. There's a lot of stuff that happens.
Yeah.
Some people just don't understand.
Yeah, you don't really understand that until you get on the production side of things, and you never will. So,
well,
like
the thing is, my editing's so insane because if you see like some Smug6 videos, there are certain ones I've done in a single day, and the quality's just nuts because of my dedication to get done.
I understand, like, there's people who legitimately enjoy editing. So like Ace the Wind Rider is another one. He's edited a couple of my videos on my channel, and
oh yeah, he's pretty cool. I wanted to commission him a while back, but
he's really good.
He kind of messed me up.
Yeah, he's really good at editing. He's like you. He's got a really high quality, and he really enjoys his work. He was the one who edited GSA Part 8 for us, and there was a couple of scenes that were created in there that he did, full on with just stills, which was amazing. I thought. I have no idea how to do that myself personally, and I don't think my current editing software has the ability to do that. But I think there's just certain people who enjoy the production side of things more than I would say the face of things. There's always going to be two sides. There's the production side, there's the face side, and certain people just enjoy being in the background doing the production task because it like you as a prime example, it sounds like you get a lot of enjoyment out of the creation of things,
Well, the thing is, like, think about someone being like a patron. They see something early. The next step above that is making the video yourself, and you know exactly what the story's supposed to be. So that's probably the biggest win that I get from this. Like, if I know it's a good story, I'm gonna enjoy listening to it. If I don't like it, it's like, oh well, at least I got paid for it, I guess.
Yeah.
Which is funny to think about.
So yeah, I can see where you're coming from. I mean, and that really is a great way of looking at it. So, and I'm one of the people that I enjoy watching my ideas gain traction and knowing that one of my ideas was like, everybody has that once in a lifetime idea that they always have. It may be small, it may be big, and right now the Pokemon What If thing is my once in a lifetime idea that I've had. So, and I'm very interested to see where it goes.
Oh yeah, for sure. One question I wanted to ask is, when do you think it's worthwhile to make another channel for a new type of content instead of uploading it to like your main channel?
I think that's a two-answer question. So the first thing is what is your content based on? So like primary example, my content, Charizard is in my name. So my channel is no doubt gonna be Pokemon. If you look at some of my earlier videos, which I've privatized them now, but I had some Yu-Gi-Oh content on my channel very early on, and it was just because I was trying things. But my name has Charizard in it, so from that aspect, until the cows come home, till the end of time, this will forever be a Pokemon channel. If you ever want to branch off and do other content for other things, and your primary channel is focused on a specific genre, then you should create another channel at that point. But if from the beginning you're labeling, your marketing, the perception of your channel is not just an individual item, then you would be safe to use that channel for, I guess a prime example would be Plus Ultraman. It's not a specific subject name. Pickled Dill, he had that early on, but he quickly became known for Pokemon content, so that's why he created the Pickled Dill podcast where he could do his other content from.
Yeah.
So like that's a primary example, of how that would work.
I think mine's pretty obvious with the name What If Universe. As long as I try to keep it within that span, it works.
Well, you're not tied down to one specific content, so that's perfect.
Well, it also works great for me because I reach a point where I do have that creative freedom. It's like, I'm not held back if a video underperforms. As long as I enjoyed making it, then I already won that aspect.
Yeah, that's a very good point.
Like, the only thing I lose is where time I put in to editing it, but at the same time, if it's already limited in the first place, and I spend time with the story, crafting and enjoying it, then that's when things come like great in that example.
Yeah, my favorite part of the whole video making process is the writing part. I love the writing part. I love being able to, like, it's essentially letting you guys in on what my brain's thinking, and that's what I enjoy the most.
I like writing, but the one thing that people will exchange with me is that I need someone to kind of ground what's going on. Because the thing is, I more enjoy absurdities. I enjoy humor. Like, I want to try to create something entertaining in that aspect, because that's how I view myself. I'm an entertainer, not necessarily a comedian for all by means, but someone who wants to keep the audience engaged with something. And the best aspect I find is like humor, for example, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like, I can write a compelling story, like with like what if Martians were replacing the Mechans, for example. Even though Professor Chimp was a good primary writer for that, like, I will admit that, there were things that I threw in there, like, for example, trying to make Garlic, basically Garlic Jr.'s father, into a primary character for a series and expand it to some point. Because you literally know nothing about this character. We know they tried to overthrow Kami and he lost. That's all we knew about him.
We don't even have like a proper render form, if I'm correct.
Yeah, we don't. Like, the render that I used was from Chrono Trigger, which is something that Toriyama worked on, and it basically fit appropriately.
Yeah.
With the art style. Because people ask me, where's that from? It's like, oh, it's from Chrono Trigger. You should play it. Like, Toriyama worked on it.
Yeah.
Underrated. Something I wanted to ask is, how important is the video editing when it comes down to making YouTube videos?
For me personally, or from my perspective of watching videos?
That's a good point. It would be a two. All right, how about we start from your perspective, like, as a creator, and then we'll do the second half to, like, as a viewer. I think that makes most sense.
Yeah. So as a creator, I'm always trying new things in my videos. And I will admit there are some points during battles where I might get a little lazy because I just don't want to put something in. Or make like something flare. But I do appreciate, from a creator, aesthetic that's put into the videos. And this has probably been my biggest criticism to Pickle Dill, and we've talked about this one-on-one. I really wish his videos had more visual in it. It wasn't just, a thumbnail with him speaking.
If I were to criticize him for anything, that would also be my
but
criticism.
he's also said that animation and just editing isn't his best strong point. So he wants to make sure before he does it again that he's got a better grasp on it, which I can respect that. But I do think from a creator standpoint, visuals are important. From a watching standpoint, however, that's where my opinion changes, because 9 times out of 10, I'm at work and I don't have time to watch it. I'm listening to it. So the visuals at that point don't really matter, because all I'm doing is listening to audio. So that's where like a Pickle Dill video would be perfect for me, because it doesn't matter what's on the screen because I'm listening to it.
Right.
But I still appreciate the visuals that's put in, because it from the mindset of a business mindset that I'm approaching it from, I'm looking at it as, if you're doing the visuals, that means you're putting the work into it and you want it to succeed. So you're doing every little thing that you can to make it as appealing as possible. So
I think for me, like, I've talked to people who like only use like gameplay or thumbnails, and the key thing that they bring up to me from their perspective, which I agree with it, they say as long as their script and audio sounds great, they can always go back later to like edit, and that kind of makes sense with the
that's true
content creation grind being like a lot more competitive. Like, people would even say like my latest like 2 actual videos are a lot more comparable to like what Smugsick and other people post, because basically I edit for them. Like, I know what quality is supposed to look like due to like judgment and understanding like what people want, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I completely understand that.
But it takes more time though to produce. Like,
the more intricate you get, the harder it is to do, and it takes that much more dedication. Yeah, I completely understand that.
like replacing like Namekians with Martians, that's a really major thing you would do with Dragon Ball, because you're eliminating Dragon Balls, you're changing a lot of lore for this to even work in the first place.
Yeah.
And you still have to make an intriguing enough story so it still fits Dragon Ball. And that's kind of like what I like. I like that type of challenge and aspect. Like, sure, it's absurd, but trying to make it work is the fun part, really, to me.
Yeah. I can understand that wholeheartedly.
Is there anything you want to do in the future to improve the quality of your own content?
So one of my main things, I've kind of put the brakes on this as of recently, and it's just due to personal things that have come up, but I was looking to kind of have a part-time editor come on, and I wanted to have somebody that was better than editing than me, so I can learn from them. I feel like if you ever want to improve, if you're the smartest guy in the room, then you're the worst person in the room. You're like the worst off person in the room, because that means that you've limited your capacity for growth. And if you want to grow, you have to surround yourself with people that are better at things than you are. You may never be as good as them, but it will better you in the long run. That's as simple as it gets. So that's my own personal belief. So I want to surround myself with people that are better at writing. So Plus Ultraman, prime example. He was a far better writer than I was, and still is. But I've gotten better just by being exposed to him. Pickle Dill, same deal. So when I start working with an editor, like I worked with Ace the Rin Writer for a couple of my videos and stuff like that, and just seeing the stuff that he's done, it's made me look at things a little bit differently and help me do my editing a little bit differently. But I think that editing would be like the prime example of where my content could benefit from. But I also recognize that I'm limited by the equipment that I have, because my laptop isn't as powerful as somebody that has a PC that's built to do it.
Yeah. Right.
So I understand that I'm limited by my means, but if I can still, increase just a tiny bit within the means that I have, then that's a small victory, but small victories eventually add up to winning the war. So
I think for me, my biggest competitor editing wise would be Carthu's Dojo's editor. Now, sometimes he edits his own stuff, and sometimes he has, I believe, MXJ edit his stuff. But
okay.
The reason I bring him up in particular is that that's a pretty high milestone, because from even analytics wise, he's going to pass like Moscow by, I believe, next year, from what I've seen.
Possibly.
As far as at least what if content creation goes, like Moscow could obviously catch up if he changes genres, but I'm not sure, at least in the what if space, if he'll maintain that. As someone who's a historian and someone who studies this, basically. Which is funny to think about.
I got you.
But what's interesting is that Carthu brought up on a stream, because I believe me and Say in Motion, I believe he was criticizing like Say in Motion's video, because he was like accepting people's videos to like review at like a pre-stream, like at the beginning there's not many people there.
Yeah.
And the main thing they brought up is that he said to treat like perspective like with the camera. So with the background, when you blur it and try to bring a character into focus and whatnot, like that's what he used that editing style from, basically. And there's other inspirations I can go into that would take me a while to get through. But the thing is that, like, even I'm starting to take inspiration with that. So I move like the background a bit, like zooming in or out a little bit, because I used to not do that. But I thought, like, if it makes sense, I'll do it and just have that as like, something for people to pay attention to a little bit,
Yeah. I can completely see the point of view that's coming from.
But as far as actual improvement, I would say if I can get my narration a bit down more, I feel like I'd be more confident with my channel, because starting off I wasn't that great, obviously, but it was more like was stuttering, dealing with other issues at the time, but now I'm a bit better. It's more like trying to get all in one take, which is annoying. That's my end goal, but that's going to take a while.
Yeah, and it only works with practice. You just got to continue to do it.
And with this awkward position, it's like my time's so limited, it makes it a lot harder for that perspective.
Yeah, that's understandable.
But yeah, I want to close things off a little bit. Is there anything you want to tell my audience before we end off here? And I'll just make a few quick channel announcements at the end.
That's a good question. Well, I've had a couple of comments on my post about we're almost going to hit 8K, and they're like, oh, 8K special, 8K special. You guys, I'm not going to do an 8K special. I'm planning a 10K special. I've been planning it for months now. I know my last special was when I hit 1,000 subscribers, and that one's still going on. I am fully aware of that, but I feel like 10K was the next milestone to celebrate as far as subscriber count's concerned. Still got 2,000 to go, so if you're viewing this and you haven't been over to my channel, please stop on by, say hi. Anybody who's from my channel who hasn't been over to What If Universe, go over, hit the subscribe button, watch their content, any videos that they may have edited for other creators. That always helps. We, as content creators on this platform, our goal is to always grow. So any type of growth that we can experience, no matter how small, is still growth, and it's that one more step to get us to the next, the next phase. Look forward to the next parts of GSA. Those are going to be coming out here soon. I don't want to give any official dates yet because we haven't set the official date as of yet, but it's going to be soon. So if you guys are a fan of that, definitely look for the announcement for that and the announcement that we have for the surprise for GSA. So that's going to be coming soon as well. I think that's it, actually.
All right. For the announcement thing that I brought up in the beginning, if you made it somehow all the way to the end here, I'm very surprised.
Me too.
This is probably the longest interview I've probably done, at least semi-uncut. I did cut one part of the middle, but you'll probably not notice that for her listening back. But basically, the next two guests are Professor Chimp, who is my collaborator for What If Namekians switch places with Martians, or what if Martians were in Dragon Ball is what we shortened What If to. And if you don't know who he is the writer for a lot of Smugstick's What Ifs, actually. A lot of people don't know that's what he does, similar to people not knowing that I edit for Smugstick, which is something that we both kind of relate to time to time.
Okay.
As far as relatively being known, but I think he recently hit 9K. He passed me a while back, which congrats to him on that. And I'm planning to do some more stuff once he hopefully recovers from COVID here.
Oh,
at least at the time recording this.
That sucks.
The person after him is Anime Sage, actually. In September, we're both planning to do like a break anyways, so I'm gonna interview him. We're gonna do some channel restructuring September because that's kind of when ad rates kind of die anyways. So as far as that goes, we'll still keep most of our momentum going, but a lot of it's just prep for My Hero coming back, basically, and finishing off a few of those series, or maybe covering some theories, who knows. But always remember, in a What If universe, there are endless possibilities, and I will see you in the next one.